Videos of party workers beating up each other are being posted on social media, but you can't imagine an internet shutdown in a city like Mumbai.
One of the things that I got from the point that you made was that it's almost as if the internet shutdown is a punishment of sorts.
I think it's people, the administrators tend to use it to hide their sort of lack of grip on the situation. Uh, because if something goes wrong somewhere, people ask, so what steps have you taken? Most administrators these days tend to say, oh, we've banned internet. That's the number one. That's the easiest thing they can do, but no one really knows how much impact it really has on improving the situation.
So recently, General D.S. Huda and Abhinav Kumar, who's a senior IPS, they compared internet shutdowns to curfew. And they admitted that it's bad strategy actually, because it leads to more propaganda by people who are already are using it well.
Logic tells you it's bad, especially if you're on the ground and you've seen it the way we have.
So the seniors also understand, but still I'm not sure where the idea comes from for the
I think
immediate reaction.
a lot of the administrators get intimidated by the social media frenzy. So if two people have died, two pro Gorkhaland supporters get killed in a clash with the police, and that thing gets posted on Facebook, the comments that sort of start pouring in is what sort of makes them go weak in the knees, and I don't think that's reason enough to ban internet.
Manish, I just want to know, you said the 100 days this internet shutdown. So my question is really how it got, was there not any pressure from the education institutions, industries and all towards the administration to lift it up? Because intensity of agitation or violence, I believe, is not uniform throughout 100 days. It died down just maybe first 10 days or 20 days.
Right.
So was there not any kind of social pressure on the administration, or was there any kind of
there is hardly any industry to speak of in Darjeeling. It's a region of 88 tea gardens, and the people who work in these tea gardens are not like you and me. So it's very difficult to create the sort of pressure we can create in a place like Delhi or Bombay. Most people here will not know all the local Nepali news channels were also banned, which is simply, I think it's a crime, and people haven't really spoken about it as much as they should. ABN, the only satellite Nepali news channel, its offices were sealed on a very flimsy ground, based on a complaint received by the Cultural and Information Department of the government, of the state government. All the Nepali news channels in Darjeeling, in Kalimpong town, were also stopped from functioning. So add that, all that's happening, and then you don't have internet. But no one really seemed to care a lot.
No, so that's why I sort of compared it to punishment, because was there even an intent to restore normalcy? Like, that's the point that you made, that in Bombay there would be an intent to restore normalcy as quickly as possible.
I think there was an ego tussle going on between pro-Gorkhaland supporters and the chief minister. So the chief minister was not in a position to call off the indefinite Bandh, which was hurting the economy. So she took all kinds of measures, internet ban being one, to say that till the day this indefinite Bandh goes on, and that Bandh went on for 105 days, it's very difficult for my government to restore normality. And normality for her also meant internet. So till she appointed Binay Tamang as the new chairman of the Board of Administrators governing Darjeeling Hill, the government just did not relent on internet.
Let me ask you a question there.
Yes.
Right? He talked about the fact that if the internet gets shut down in Mumbai or in Delhi, firstly, it won't get shut down because there will be a massive reaction to that. Is there a difference in understanding these people have? Is there a difference in exposure, or is there a different fear that if you do this in a big city, it'll become international news? What is the thought process of law enforcement
What
agencies?
I got in Jaipur is not about, they are not worried about how much news it will become. They are right now dealing with the situation that how do they avoid that problem to grow. I think that's the intent right now. They really don't care how much they get abused.
But the same situation, if it occurs in Delhi or in Bangalore, the police there will take a different alternative to
so
it, like they did in Bangalore.
Absolutely.
Why is the police in Jaipur doing that? Why is the police?
I think you can safely put it down to two words: administrative feudalism.
Yeah.
People think that this can.
Administrative feudalism.
Yeah, I mean,
That's actually a great phrase.
Yeah.
I just have a small comment, maybe to, the feudal bureaucracy is a nice concept. I think it's also lazy. This is just too lazy a bureaucracy to really think and be creative. And actually, it's becoming a standard operating process. The way I see it growing, it's almost like growing up for 50 years. We had this notion saying, if you buy IBM, you never get fired. Currently, if you just shut down the internet, you probably get a promotion. That's one. The other thing is that actually, at a much more abstract level, China recently put down a policy saying, as a security measure, we can shut down anything we feel like. Question we must ask is our democracy going to become like China and North Korea?
It's probably likely that these shutdowns are going to continue at least the next couple of years, few years, till there's more awareness. People are, especially in Delhi, Bombay, the people are aware and they know their rights and everything. But places like Darjeeling and maybe Srinagar and basically the hinterlands, where people aren't really aware. They do use internet. Internet has become a source of utility for them, but when they are deprived of internet, they don't really feel so strongly about it, So I think the conversations need to continue, and I think it's going to take some time before. Right, so I'm Manish. I run a small website from Darjeeling, from Siliguri, from Darjeeling district. It's called Teesta Herald. And I started the website, I think a month before the ban hit the area. So the ban was enforced on June 18. That's just a day after 3 people died in clashes with the police after the whole Gorkhaland agitation got triggered. The ban affected, when we talk about the internet ban on Darjeeling, it sounds as if the ban was just on Darjeeling town, this little town with only so many people. But we're talking about the entire North Bengal hills here, which includes the towns of Kalimpong, Mirik, Darjeeling itself, and Kashong. So we're talking about the ban affecting at least, if not more, than some 8 to 10 lakh people, right? So I think the ban was lifted on September 25, 100 days later. That is after the state government managed to put in place an administrative head, which would, I wouldn't say pro-state government so much, but someone they could deal with, because the political leadership before that was completely at loggerheads with the state government. So who were affected by the ban? Mostly it was working professionals, especially journalists. Some of my friends, Amrita is not here from DNA. Amrita and I went to Darjeeling when this whole thing was going on, and we had really a nightmarish experience trying to send the stories across to our offices. I was freelancing with Times of India, and she was filing her stories for DNA. And this one time, I think probably the last time that Bimal Gurung, the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha president, addressed a press conference, and we were there, and he gave us an exclusive one-on-one interview. And both of us filed copies around 1,000 words long, and we tried first sending them through SMSs, and it was just not possible, right? So that's when a local helped us. He took us to a spot which faced the hills of Sikkim, and because there were these towers there, and this area was getting some weak signal, and that's how we managed to somehow send the stories across. Schools were very majorly affected. Students, because there was an indefinite bandh that was going on, the schools were shut. There was no transport. There was no taxi service. So the teachers were trying to, pass off instructions to students using WhatsApp. But once the ban was enforced, everything stopped. Students who were in the process of applying for admission to colleges in other cities, mid-June is around the time, I think, when the DU admissions kicked off as well. They really suffered. They couldn't come out of Darjeeling because there was simply no way they could do that. the ban also had a strong impact on large section of hill residents who either study or work outside. So imagine if you're a student from Darjeeling studying in a college in Bangalore, and you receive your pocket money, or your fees come from back home via net banking, because the banks were shut down, because there was no internet, and because the parents could not sort of go anywhere outside of Darjeeling because of the indefinite ban that was going on back then. The kids really had to fend for themselves. They had to, there was no money coming from home for them. So these are small ways that the ban really affected the people.
Can you give us examples of individuals who may have faced certain issues because of it?
Well,
because we got the big level,
no WhatsApp spam. That's looking at it positively. One very interesting way the ban affected. One of the more interesting impacts of the ban was on politicians and the administrative functionaries themselves. So we have a trend back in Darjeeling where most politicians prefer to use to speak to each other over WhatsApp. They find it fairly risky to make phone calls to each other. For the obvious reason, they fear that the calls may be tapped. The same goes for some strange reason the administrative officials as well. Probably because WhatsApp calls are the quality is much better. So we had on a few occasions after a clash when because there was no internet, because there were no real good sources of information. Some national channels had a few sources on the ground who tended to be biased a little bit. So you had one fairly popular, in fact, the most popular national channel once going on record saying 3 people had died after a clash in Sukna, when in fact it later turned out there were no deaths really. And I think one of the reasons they cite for the ban is to sort of put a curb on rumors, but the opposite tends to happen a lot of the time. I think the ban was nothing less than a crime, because it was the political supporters of one political party who were hitting the streets, raising slogans, throwing stones, and numbering, on a bad day, maybe 400 to 500 people. And then to sort of ban internet on the pretext of law and order was completely ridiculous. And for 100 days, most people believe that it was used as a pressure tactic by the state government because there was indefinite ban that was enforced by the Gorkha Janmukti Morcha. Now that ban, most people believe, had popular support, at least in the hills. So the internet ban was, okay, so if you're okay with the indefinite ban, if there's not going to be any work done in offices, if there's no cars on the roads, so what do you need internet for? So let us, the state government, add this to your basket of miseries. So I think what happened in Darjeeling is very, very grave, because I don't really think the situation called for a ban for that long a period. The very concept of internet ban is not going to hold too much water going forward. I don't think it makes any sense at all, especially in the case of Darjeeling. When the ban was enforced, only 3 people had died. After the ban was enforced, over 10 people died. People don't die on WhatsApp and Twitter and Facebook, right? People die on the streets when they clash with whoever. Now, you have, so the leader of Gorkha Janmukti Morcha, who's gone underground for over 3 months now, for as long as the ban itself, he's facing trial in 23 cases. He made very good use of social media. What he used to do was, he would record these audio clips and then sort of circulate it in social media. Right now, maybe the people who lived in Darjeeling could not directly immediately access it, but there was a lot of people outside of Darjeeling, but from the region, was sort of swept in. Bimal Gurung actually used it as a propaganda thing, and it really went to his favor. So this concept of internet ban in itself, I think, has to be discussed. I don't think there is any justification, no matter how grave a situation. I don't know how many lives the ban on internet saved in the case of Haryana. It's just ridiculous.